Morning.
Hey.
Hello, hello. But all we really need today is something comfortable to kneel on. A block may be helpful if you have something like that, and some kind of a stick or pole. Other than that, we don't really need anything else. So we'll do a good amount of kind of standing stuff, some different balance and stability. We'll get the spine and hips going. There we go. I like the setup there, Mitch. Let's get started. We're going to start off standing today. There we go. So we're going to do kind of standing, initially just sort of assessing how we feel. So typically, as humans, we're not super symmetrical. Most often when we stand, just like the general human pattern, our right leg takes more of the weight. So usually people stand and the right foot is like slightly back. So anyway, I just want to get a feel for how we feel just standing, and then how we feel single leg. So you might notice standing regularly like more weight on one side of the body, or if you have different amounts of surface area hitting with your feet. So like, can you feel more of one heel than the other, or can you feel more toes on one side of the foot, or one foot than the other? So it's kind of interesting to think about. We'll work on some breathing today too, which can help actually change our sensations here. But for now, I just want you to take a moment, observe what you feel with your feet, with your hips. You know, are there asymmetries side to side that you are aware of? Okay, one thing that was eye-opening for me was when I would just turn, like I'm not rotating a lot, but when you turn, do you feel kind of an even sensation on your feet? So like when I turn right, you know, I feel the outside of my right heel and foot a little bit. Before I started doing some of the breathing and mobility stuff, I wouldn't feel the same thing on my left heel, just as an example. Like I wouldn't be able to get to the outside of my left heel. So I just want you to kind of feel what's going on there. Do you feel similar things side to side? Sometimes it's so ingrained we can't identify a difference. Okay. So just playing around there, good thing to assess every now and then. What I also want you to do now is we're just going to go standing on one leg if you can. So you can just pick up one foot. Okay, and as that happens, notice what you feel. You know, is it difficult, easy? Does your foot cave in? Does it feel like you could just hang out here? So we'll take a little bit of time, maybe 10 minutes, right? And just try to observe how you're feeling. You know, how quickly does the fatigue start to set in? Where do you feel pressure in your foot, ankle, knee, hip, spine even? And try to remember that as we switch sides. So go ahead, set the other foot down, lift. Okay, and same deal, you know, does it feel significantly different? Do you notice, you know, any difference in where your weight is distributed? Even subtle differences, you know, over the course of a day, week, or month, taking tens of thousands of steps or hundreds of thousands of steps, that can really, really change us. So just observe any differences. We're going to kind of reassess this a little bit after we do some breathing. All right, so now you can set your feet down. Now I just want you to kind of bring some awareness to your rib cage. So our ribs are here, right? Rib cage, it goes all the way into the back. Ideally, we don't want our rib cage to be up like this. We want it to be kind of neutral. The human tendency is for the left side to be a little bit more flared up and the right side a little bit more down. We tend to be more compressed on the right side and more extended on the left. So for most people, that's not true for everybody. We kind of want to even that out a little bit. So that's where with the breathing, a lot of times I have you focus on bringing the rib cage down. So just observe how your ribs are. Also, bring some attention to your pelvis because they kind of interact. So the way a lot of people breathe is rib cage and pelvis kind of open up, and we breathe here and compress here. Ideally, we want this to be in a little bit. It doesn't have to be crunched, in a little bit, so that when we breathe, the air can go back, it can go to the sides. It'll go a little bit here and here, but we don't want to just open up like that. So just bring in some awareness. I have you do some pelvic tucks. You can do a few of those here to feel what it feels like as you go in and out of certain positions here. If you keep a slight bend in your knees, it's going to make it easier for you to manipulate that pelvis too. So don't worry, we'll get moving a bit more today too, but this stuff definitely sets a good foundation. All right, so now what I'm going to have us do is come down to the floor. We're going to go on our back. If you have a couch or something that you can put your feet up on, that sometimes can be more effective. So we're going to do some breathing. So you can either be, like this with the heels down, or if you have something like a couch, like I've got here, that's also great. So I like this position if it's available. Either way, you're going to be fine though. So what we want is if you can get the knees about 90 degrees, okay, heels, whether they're on the floor or elevated, heels kind of digging in a little bit, not super hard, and then pulling slightly this way. So we want to feel like the hamstrings are working a little. All right, from this position, just a slight tuck of the pelvis, like you're going to tuck your tail in between your legs. From here, now we're going to work on some focused breathing, maintaining a little bit of a pull through the hamstrings. So I want you to fully exhale out through the mouth. And as you do so, we want the rib cage coming down. Inhale through the nose. Full exhale through the mouth. So through pursed lips, so you can push with some pressure, really push all the air out till you really feel that rib cage coming down. You'll feel a little bit more of a tuck of the pelvis. And then breathe in through the nose. As we do this now, think about continuing to bring the rib cage down, and as you breathe in, try not to let your belly rise. So as you breathe in, you're keeping some engagement through the abdominals and the obliques, which forces the air to your sides, to your back, to your chest a little bit more. So again, as you fully exhale, try to maintain that rib cage down. Breathe into your back. You can guide it with your hands and think about not breathing into those hands in your belly. Expand into the back. If you start to get the hang of this, then I want you to see if you can pause for a couple seconds at the depth of your exhale. So full exhale, everything out. Pause for a couple seconds. Breathe in through the nose. It's normal for this to be pretty uncomfortable and for it to be really challenging. I still want you working those hammies a little bit. Let's go 2 more breaths. Full exhale. Once you get to the basement of that exhale, see if you can squeeze out just a little extra air. Then hold for a couple seconds. Then breathe into your back. Last breath here. All right, and then you can gradually ease yourself out of that position. All right. So again, if you're able to really force that air out, and especially if you're not used to this, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. It's kind of a challenge to keep the breathing calm when you just want to. So, but it can be super helpful. So cool. The good news is, if you found that really challenging, it's a low bar to improve, and you can feel way better pretty easily. Now what we're gonna do is some cat-cows. So we'll go quadruped position here. Okay, driving the shoulder blades away. And we're gonna get that pelvic tuck. We're gonna start rounding through the low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin, then droop, untuck the pelvis, slowly work your way up the spine. All right, nice and slow. We'll get a couple more of those. Very nice. Awesome. So what's cool is some of that breath work does help with spinal segmentation, with mobility in general. It can influence our nervous system pretty significantly. Now, switch up. So you're going to lead with the head and chin. We're going to droop down. There we go. Yep. And we'll tuck. Little by little. Really try to feel those tissues working, contracting to move each vertebrae. There we go. Take our time. Good. Go one more time each direction, wherever you are. Really try to feel every little segment of that spine. Looking good. All right. Okay, then we get those ankles going. So I'm going to do these straight leg. I like doing them like that. So if you have a block or something, you can pop a leg up there. You can do them bent leg if you prefer, but for my purposes, I like them like this. So glue the leg down. We're going to do nice, slow ankle cars. So the breath work we did that's kind of the foundation. So you can think of like layers. You know, you want your rib cage, your pelvis, your breathing to all be really solid. Then the next layer is kind of the joint health, joint mobility. There we go. So this stuff is awesome. But if the breathing is not, is pretty far from ideal, then even the joint mobility stuff can be almost like a Band-Aid. Let's switch directions here. There we go. Nice big rotation. We got it. Shin staying still. There we go. It's getting warm around here. Pretty fun, right? Let's go ahead and switch up the legs. Okay, so same deal. Nice, big, slow rotation. Got it. So one of the cool things with the breathing is, as we're able to direct the breath into our back more, it can decompress our spine a little bit more with each breath. So we breathe so many times a day. If we improve that just a little bit, it can make a huge difference in how we feel and move. Switch directions with the ankle. There we go. A lot of our nervous system goes through there, so you can actually influence your levels of stress, of parasympathetic or sympathetic activity, just by how you breathe, or even just by where you breathe. where you direct your air. Good. All right, now we are going to do a half kneeling thing here. So another cool asymmetry. So I talked about how that right side we're typically more dominant there. Another thing that tends to be the case is that our people's pelvis oftentimes is rotated this way. So we're going to go both sides here, but I want to bring your attention a little bit to the pelvis area. So we're going to go left knee down, right leg up. Okay. In just comfortable position. Your back toes can be wherever, whatever's comfortable for you. And I want you to think about almost like you're pulling this hip back, pushing this knee forward, which is going to rotate your pelvis. Like that. Okay, so your pelvis is turning like this, and you're holding it there. Boom. Just like that. Then, take your arm, push it into your thigh, the inside of your thigh. There we go. With the other hand, we're going to reach and then open up like that. So you can reach, and you can let your pelvis turn a little bit. Then you're rotating out, turning your chest and pelvis away. So we're coming in, driving away. All this tissue here is going to shorten and contract, then stretch. It all shortens, pulls in, stretches away. There we go. We got a couple more. And normal to feel a little fatigue here in the hip too. So see how I'm moving this thigh as well? I'm kind of pulling everything in, actively driving away. Let's go for one more. And you can shake that out a little bit. Take a moment and we'll get to switch sides. So as we did in the beginning with some of the balance, observe how this feels on the other side. If the rotation feels easier, harder, etc. So what we're going to do now is rotate the pelvis to the right. Rotate it away from the front leg. Boom. Then you can bring the arm here. We're going to pull in, reach and rotate away. Pull in. Good. Reach and rotate away. So all that tissue from your knee and your hand to your other hand is contracting and shortening and reaching away. There we go. We'll get a few more here. Okay. Here. Here. Pulling in, reaching away. Let's go for one more. And then we can relax for a moment. Shake it out. Okay, and we're going to do one more round of the breathing. So, for this one, if you have something like this or a block, we're going to even put it in between your knees. So, again, we can either be here in this position, or if you have a couch, ottoman, etc., you can bring the feet up like this. Okay, either way. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Nancy, you can even, like, if you have friction, you can even put your feet, yep, just up on the wall like that. Perfect. So, if you have a block or have a pad or something, you can stick it between your knees. Okay, to get set here, I'm going to have you just gently push your heels down. Kind of almost try to pull, get those hamstrings working a little bit. Okay, as if you were going to bridge up, and we're going to get a little tuck of the pelvis, like you're tucking the tail between the legs. Okay, now we're going to build on what we did before. We're going to focus on that big exhale, full exhale all the way out, rib cage coming down. Inhale, into your back. Good. Full exhale. Pause if you can at the basement of that exhale. Then breathe. Okay, maintain a little squeeze with the knees, little drive down with the heels. Good. Continue that full exhale. Rib cage comes down. Maintain your tuck. Try to breathe in without your belly coming up. So it'll direct it to your sides and your back. Okay, if you feel comfortable that you can focus on another thing now, we can add an arm reach. So, shoulder blades reach toward the sky. As you exhale, reach as hard as you can. As you inhale, maintain that reach. Breathe into your back. Good. We're going to get 2 to 3 more breaths. Focus on that reach. With your breath in, you're stretching your back away from your fingertips. The breath, the air is stretching you away. As you exhale, maintain the reach so you don't lose any height. And that maintains your stretch in your upper back. Last breath here. Try to maintain the reach. Don't lose it. As you exhale and then inhale. And then you can relax. Whew. All right. So, if you're able to feel all that, it can be pretty intense. It's a lot here. So the idea is we're progressively breathing more into the mid and upper back, and then as we exhale, we're trying not to lose that stretch. So we're trying to expand from here to our fingertips and lengthen it. Okay. Now let's come up to standing again. We're gonna kind of reassess a little bit. So at the very beginning, we worked a little bit on, where our weight distribution is, where our balance is. So you can shake it out a little bit. You can stand and just see if that feels different than the beginning. Do your feet feel different? Where your weight is distributed? On your heels, on the ball of your foot. For me, when I first started doing this, as I kind of mentioned, the biggest difference I felt was with my left heel. I could feel the outside of my left heel. Okay? You may not feel a huge difference, and that's okay. Now, though, we're going to go back to the balance. So, I want you to stand on one foot and just hang out there. Observe what you feel. So when we did this in the beginning, hopefully you remember kind of what that felt like, and you can see if this feels any different. It might not. When I started doing the focused breath work for a few days, I started to feel a pretty big difference in my left foot. Not much in the right, because that I was already used to putting weight through that pretty evenly. Observe how this is feeling. Let's switch to the other foot. All right. Don't try to change anything, just observe what it's like. Where do you feel, the foot touching the ground? Where do you feel your weight? Good. Hold that. Observe any differences between feet and also between the beginning and right now. Just a little longer here. It's also interesting, we're not, I don't want to spend an enormous amount of time just standing on one foot today, but you can try this on your own as well. You can relax there. It's interesting over time assessing how your fatigue changes. So as we're more aligned, it might be much more efficient for you to stand on one foot than it was before. Okay, next up, we're going to do some standing pronation and supination of the feet. So, working a little more on the mobility side of things, not as much the alignment, but what I want you to do is roll out and roll in. So we're actively trying to achieve these positions. Foot and ankle rolling out and rolling in. And think about when we roll out, we're contracting these tissues on the inside, we're pulling. When we roll in, we're contracting everything on the outside. Just like that. There we go. So pretty interesting, you know, rib cage, pelvic position, our diaphragm can really influence what happens down here. But once we've worked on that, then we want to actively train this stuff. Now, I'm going to have you kind of do opposite. So you're going to roll one out while you turn the other one in. So I want you to actively do it, actively pull, but then you can also supplement it with a little bit of body rotation. So that can allow you to get a little bit more movement. Keep it pain-free. All right, so these positions of the foot and ankle, these are natural. These are okay as long as they don't hurt. Of course, we don't want to be in any extremes. So generally, you know, you don't want one foot to always be pronating like crazy or always be supinating. But they are natural parts of the gait cycle. We just want to be able to control them. Okay. Now what I'm going to have us do is some shoulder cars. We can do these standing. Let's go into a slight staggered position. So left foot back, right leg forward. Okay. Little tuck of the pelvis. We're going to do the left shoulder. So cross, up, rotate, reach way back behind you. Then we can reverse. We'll go for 3 nice big reps here. So with the breathing stuff, it's pretty neat because it can just subtly change some of your body's alignment. And you can feel differences from subtle changes in your hips, your shoulders, and spine. We'll go for 1 more rep. We're going to do 3 total. There we go. Nice. And since it can regulate our nervous system pretty well with the breathing, let's go ahead and switch up. We'll go other foot forward. Little tuck of the pelvis. Shoulder cars. So since it can help regulate, if you find yourself, breathing quickly or stressed, or maybe unable to calm down or rest, you can consciously focus on lengthening your exhale, on bringing your ribs down with your exhale, and trying to breathe into your back. And if you're able to do that even a little bit, that can help change how you feel. Here we go. So 3 more reps with this shoulder, or 3 reps total. Looking good. Then we're going to stay standing, and we're going to be in a staggered foot position. All right, what I'm going to have you do is go back to left foot forward, right leg back. So similar a little bit to the half kneeling in that I'm going to have you kind of rotate those hips. So I'm thinking about almost pulling with my left heel and pushing with my right leg. So it's rotating this way. Now you're going to hold this position. You might feel your right glute working because I'm thinking I'm not just rotating, but I'm pushing with this leg. Okay, so you're holding this rotation. From here, I want you to try to rotate your upper body right and left. Notice which direction is easier. But try to maintain, unlike the half kneeling, I don't want your pelvis moving. So try to maintain this rotation of your pelvis. We're just rotating the chest. Easier said than done. Your rotation is probably not going to be huge, especially going to the right. Good, we'll just get a couple more. And you can relax there. All right. A little different. Tendency is that we're not quite as good rotating to the right, especially when those hips are turning to the left. So we'll switch it up and see how that feels, relatively speaking. So left leg is forward now. We're rotating pelvis to the right. Okay, so you're kind of pushing through this leg, pulling through the other. Hold yourself there. Okay, and we're going to rotate upper body right and left. Observe how it feels. Try to actively rotate without moving the pelvis or without moving it too much. Here we go. Important to be able to move our upper body and our pelvis independent of one another, especially with the feet on the ground. Last rotation here. Whew. All right, then we can come down to the floor. All right, so lots of standing stuff there. Now we get to do some hip cars, side lying position. So you don't have to focus on anything specifically with your sides, but just be aware, like I said in the beginning, it tends to be that our right side is more compressed, left side is more expanded. So you can just observe how you feel on one side versus the other. So for this one, I'll show you real quick. It's gonna look like this. I'll walk you through it. Nice side lying hip cars. We're gonna do 3 nice slow reps. Okay, so you can also use a block for your head. We're going to pull the knee up, pry out, lift off, open up like a gate, internally rotate, reach that knee and ankle back, knee toward the floor, then heel back, pry the knee and ankle towards the armpit, bring the knee up, ankle down first, then the knee. All right, and we'll do 2 more of those. So prying the knee off, open that hip up like a gate, start internally rotating, reaching back, knee towards the ground, drive back, pry knee and ankle towards the armpit, then the ankle leads the way down, then the knee. All right, and think about for this last rep, pelvis is tucked. Little tuck of the pelvis, pry off, lift, internally rotate, reach back. Good. As you go into that extension, driving back, that's when the pelvis is going to want to untuck. Knee high, ankle toward the floor, then the knee. Whew. All right. Nicely done. You can switch up the sides. We'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, so I like turning my chest slightly towards the floor just so I have a little bit more stability as I reach back with the hip. So the knee is pulling high, pry away, open that hip up,
internally rotate, reach back behind, and down. Good. Back, knee and ankle come towards the armpit. Reach the knee up high, ankle down, knee down. 2 more like that. Pry away, lift off, internally rotate as you reach back. Good, knee down towards the floor. Drive the heel back. Pry the knee and ankle towards that armpit. Knee up, ankle down, knee down. All right, 1 more here. Keep that pelvis tucked open. Rotate. Reach back behind. Good. Reach back. Pry knee and ankle towards the armpit. Reach that knee nice and high. Ankle down, knee down. Beautiful. Okay, you can take a moment there. Super cool. Next up, shake it out. Actually, I'm gonna grab a little sip. We're gonna do some spinal cars. Kneeling, as long as that's okay. For you, you can of course stand or sit if you'd like. You could use a block behind your butt if that feels better. All right, so for this one, up to you. You can either do a self-hug or you can do a block hug or a ball, like so. You just adds a little bit of fun, potentially. If it doesn't block your, no pun intended, block your movement. So you can squeeze nice and tight, tuck your chin, round down, rotate right, tip right, extend back through the mid and upper back, tip left, rotate left, round down. Then you can extend again, tuck, round down, rotate left, tip left, extend back, tip right, rotate right, round down. Then if you want, you can switch which arm is on top or change the arms up whatever way makes sense to you. We're going to do 1 more each way. Make sure you're breathing, though it will be shallower than normal. So I'm going to round, rotate right, tip, extend. Really try to move through that mid and upper back. Tip left, rotate left, round down, unwind and extend, and then we'll re-round. You can start with the chin if you'd like. Round down, rotate left, tip, extend, tip, rotate, round to the center, and up. Woo. Okay. Very fun. We are going to, if you have a block, you can use that. We're going to sit on a slightly elevated surface. You can do this on the floor as well, if you prefer couch or whatever. I like to go slightly elevated with this. We're going to do some hip rotations. Okay. All right. So for this one, I'm going to have us just keep one leg still. You can put your arm against it if you'd like to. Other leg, we're rotating and rotating. Okay, so I'm using my other arm just for a little stability behind me. You could have both there. That's totally fine too. Good. And I want you just really focusing on getting max range of motion. Being a little elevated, sometimes that allows a little more range. And we're just going in and out, Use these tissues to pull. Use the outside to pry open. Nice. We'll get a few more here. There we go. You got it. Trying to keep everything else nice and still. Here we go. Okay, once you're out here, you can kind of lock this leg into place. We'll go with the other one. So same deal. If you find that you want a little different range of motion and you want to play around with it, you can always experiment with heel position. See where you get a good stretch. Rotate in and out. Take a moment at those end points as you rotate. If you ever feel any discomfort, sometimes people get it in the inside of the knee as they go this way. Really focus on using those hip muscles to drive the movement. And that can help. Yep, just a couple more here. Nice. And then we can relax. All right, and I got a nice treat for you next. We're going to work on a side plank. And this is an interesting one. So again, I talked about kind of our tendency is usually this as humans. Not always. But the side plank can be interesting because one side might be a lot more used to being contracted and resisting certain forces than the other. So for the side plank, we have options here. You can go from the knees, like so. You can also go from the feet. So what I tend to like to do is stack the feet. If you want kind of an in-between, another thing you can do is take your top leg, bring it like this, and kind of use that leg to help you. And then, if you want, you can take it away. So our goal is to come up. We don't want our ribs or our pelvis to droop. All right, so we're not sagging. We want to contract and shorten. And we want this arm pretty much right under our shoulder, not too far under like this so that it's painful, but just here. So we push through the arm, create a lot of space here at the shoulder. So think about between your sternum and your elbow, we want as much space as possible. Okay, so whatever works for you, we're going to come up, hold, think about that pelvis is tucked, like as if you're doing a bridge, driving through this arm. We're solid. We'll go till about 10:55. All right, let's go a few more seconds here. Observe how it feels and relax. I'm sure that's what everyone wants to do. Just calmly and objectively observe how it feels while you're doing a side plank. So, interestingly, I usually find a pretty significant difference in terms of difficulty one side to the other. Usually my second set, not as much. So it's like one side just needs a little more waking up. So let's do same thing, other side. This is the side where people more often tend to want to droop. So contract, get solid. We're going to come up, drive through that arm. Good. You're solid here. Lots of space between the elbow and the chest. Pushing through. Good. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Relax. Nice. All right, so it's nice to find some way that is comfortable for you. We're going to come back to that, but first we get to do some standing, half kneeling hover with an arm drive, or so not full standing, but I'll show you. We've kind of primed this a little bit. Rather than being here, we're going to come up. You're going to be as low as you can control for about 20 seconds. You don't have to do it quite yet, but you can practice with the knee down. And we're going to do a push-pull, like so. So think about one hand is pulling as far back as you can as the other hand pushes. So what's going to happen naturally is your upper body is going to be rotating. We're going to be holding ourselves like this. Pelvis is going to be staying pretty still. 20-ish seconds. All right, so go ahead and hover at whatever height works for you. You can always change it as we go. And we're going to reach and reach. So you can see how the Smiles Take You Miles on my shirt is turning as my arms push and pull. That's great. That's what we want. Push and pull. Big range. You'll be able to feel your back working while your legs are staying really solid. 3, 2, 1. You can bring it on down. Whew. Awesome. And we'll just take a little breather. Breathe into your back. Pretty neat. Years ago when I started breathing more through my nose, I found I would recover really quickly if I was willing to have that discomfort of breathing through my nose when I was working hard. Add the extra layer of breathing into your back, and you can recover a lot more quickly from being out of breath or fatigued. So, we're going to come back up to the hover. All right, we're ready, and we're on, and we're reaching and reaching. All right, so that lower body is staying really solid, locked in, and we're driving rotation with our arms, okay, which is what happens when we walk and run. Of course, the difference is, rather than being locked in, our lower body is reciprocating. Three, 2, 1, and you can bring it on down. Excellent. So another thing that affects, like breathing and arms and arm drives, you can create kind of a feedback loop there. So if you notice that when you walk, or when someone walks, like one arm moves a lot more or less than the other, it's usually indicative of like breathing is a little bit off. So you can consciously move the arm, and that'll probably help. Most helpful is to address the breathing, make sure that we can breathe how we should. So we get to go back to the side planks. I'll give you, for anyone who's just very enthused by them, I'll give you an option. So again, we can go from the knees, but if you do, think about like bridging up. We can do a crossover or both legs, or you can come up and you can do leg raises. Super fun, I know. So same idea, we're going for about 20 seconds. All right, you're driving through this arm, get really solid before you do anything, locked in, then if you want, you could add a little leg lift. That bottom leg's gonna be working nice and hard. Try to maintain your solid position. Three, 2, 1, and you can relax. Whew. Okay, so that gets just about everything. If you think about the forces that are going on, your bottom leg has to drive solidly this way. Other legs reaching up. All this side tissue is contracting to resist this. And your shoulders holding you. Fantastic full body exercise. So, same deal, we want to make sure our ribs are in, pelvis is tucked. We're going to come up, like so, lift. If you're doing the lifts, so that adds an extra element to it, you might feel more of an asymmetry one side to the other. There we go. A little bit more here. 3, 2, 1. You can relax and bring it down. Excellent. All right, we'll take a little breather. We get to do some rotations, we'll do some standing rotations with a stick next. So if you have a stick or something to hold on to, that will work. And then we can stand up. Okay. Very nice. So for this one, you can just be in a comfortable stance, comfortable athletic stance. We're going to do a couple different planes of motion. Slight bend. We're going to reach out. And here, I don't want the pelvis moving too much, so it's still a little more upper body. Rather than just turning like this, though, we're kind of rotating with the stick. Wide stance. Wide grip. Good, and you're going to rotate chest and shoulders right. And slowly rotate left. Trying to keep the hips somewhat stable. So they're going to turn slightly, but try not to let them turn too much. You're driving with that upper body. Good. One more each way. Then you can relax for a moment. Oh yeah. Then, you can hold this however you want. I'm going to just kind of get it under my elbows, cross my hands, just so this is stable. Little bend in the hips and knees. And we're going to try to rotate our pelvis while keeping our upper body still. Okay, easier said than done. So see, imagine your belly button, your zipper, if you had a zipper, they're turning. Okay, your feet can move a little bit. They can collapse, cave in, supinate. We're trying to keep the upper body still with the lower body rotating. There we go. And again, notice that in order to do that and get more rotation, we do need some of that movement from the feet and ankles. Last one here. Take a little break for a moment. And then we're going to do almost like a golf swing. I'm going to have you get a little bit of a hip hinge like so, and we're going to rotate left and right. This time you can add the hips in. So you're going to go, okay, upper body's driving, I'm rotating. I'm going to let the hips turn as well. How far can I go? Without pain in the hips, knees, ankles. Then you're going to go the other way nice and slow. Rotate as far as you can. We're just going to slowly work through that. Good. Slowly work through that like a pendulum. Good. So those arms are working, the back's working. Get as far as you can without pain. So you want shoulders, spine, hips, ankles, all those things moving. Last one here. You can relax. All right, we'll come down here. Okay, I'm going to have us go into a 90-90, so we'll do a little hip stretching to finish up here. Cool thing is when we rotate like that, when our breathing's better, when each segment moves well, no one segment in particular takes on an enormous amount of stress. And that's kind of the idea with all of this, is we want to be distributing load and stress fairly evenly. So what I'm going to have us do with this one is you're going to pull in to your front leg, to a bit of a stretch. Use that front leg to then push you backwards You can use your other hand for a little stability, and then I want you to go back towards that back leg. Use your back leg to push you forward. Okay, so we're just using our hips. Our hips are kind of playing catch with our torso. Push back. As you get here, that back hip catches you, pushes you forward. Then you're pulling in, front hip catches you, and it pushes you backward. Use those tissues in that front hip to drive you back. Last one here, we're back. Drive forward. Awesome. I love that for just a really efficient way to get all the stuff in your hips and torso feeling it. Then we can switch. We can do the same thing on the other side. All right, so here, just kind of gently pull in. Use that front hip to drive you back. Use that back hip to catch and push you forward. Each rep you can try and get a little more range of motion. There we go. And the whole way you're in control. You're in control here. Using those hips to, you're just handing your torso off between one another. Pulling in. Driving back. We'll go one more each way. There we go. Excellent. All right, everybody, and you are all finished. If you have any thoughts, questions, observations, please feel free to share. But I certainly won't make you do anything else.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome, Chris.
Leg lifts, man.
What's that?
Those side plank leg lifts.
They are, and I will say, because I always feel obligated to, for taller people like yourself, it's generally always going to be tougher. But they are humbling. They are humbling.